Hello everyone. Change is the only constant thing in life. Unfortunately, I'm not getting a source code to make it variable. Only the technical geeks will understand this. My dear students, I welcome all of you to my second session on Python Revision Tour 1. So in this session, I will be discussing expressions, if conditions, looping statements, jump statements, and more on loops. Let's get into the first topic. What is expressions? My dear students, expressions in the sense it is a combination of operands, operators and literals. So let's take an example. For example, I have x is equal to or a plus 10. So or I can also make it as very complex, something like this. So what is that I need to understand with respect to this expression now? It is very important for all of us to know how exactly we are evaluating this expression, my dear students. So how do we evaluate this? So to evaluate this, the system or the Python programming language is trained based on the precedence of operators. Sir, what is this precedence of operator? Yes, we are going to that. Precedence of operators in the sense, my dear students, I have some of the list of operators you can see in this table, which we have already discussed. It is very important to understand which operator has got the highest priority. So in this table, I have tried to depict the operator from highest priority to the lowest priority. My dear students, based on the priority of the operator, the expressions will be evaluated. For example, you would have tried or you would have applied this in the mathematics. Like, you have BODMAS rule. How you apply the BODMAS rule? In the same way, so we apply these operators based on the priority. Based on the priority of the operator, we will be evaluating the expression. That is what you need to understand. So we have discussed the priority of the operators in the previous classes of class 11. Just have a quick look which operator has got the highest priority, which operator has got the lowest priority. So now you need to understand, let's take an example, the parenthesis whatever I have the highest priority in all this operators. I have the highest priority for the parenthesis. After that, what is the next highest priority that I have? Sir, I have for the exponential. Okay, so like that, all the operators are defined based on the priority. So based on the priority, your expressions will be evaluated. So for example, you will be coming across with the relational operators, you'll be coming across with the arithmetic operators, you'll be coming across with the logical operators. All these operators has got its own priority. Based on the priority, the expressions will be evaluated. So that is what you need to understand with respect to the expression. Guys, I want all of you to take the screenshot of it. I'll just move out of the frame. Please just take the screenshot of it. It will be for your reference. Yes, hope you have taken the screenshot of it. So moving on to the next concept. Yes, my dear students, we have the next concept as typecasting. Sir, what is this typecasting? Whenever I say with respect to the typecasting, you should remember the concept called data type. You should remember the concept called data type. And the second one is expression. Sir, what is the meaning of typecasting? Typecasting in the sense you are changing the data type from one type to another type. That is what we are trying to explain here. That is what you need to remember. So for example, I have int. So let me write int. So what is int here? Int is my data type. So I will have a. So I am casting. I am changing the data type of a to int. That is what you need to remember. I am changing the data type from one type to another type. So that is what the meaning of typecasting you need to remember with respect to typecasting. The second topic that you should remember is math library functions. The second topic that you need to remember is math library functions. Sir, what is this math library functions? Sir, during my program, so if I want to code a program, I will have to calculate some of the things. For example, I have to calculate the square root, I have to calculate the sine value, I have to calculate the log value. So should I write for each and everything, should I write my own code? No, my dear students. So some of the mathematical functions are predefined and stored in the library called math library. So if you want to use that, first you need to import math. First you need to import math library. So my dear students, if you import math library, you have got multiple predefined mathematical functions. I have listed few for you in this session. So ceil is also one of the math function. Square root is also one of the math function like that. Log, sine, and then you have power. So my dear students, so what is the use of all these things? For example, let's take sine or let's take ceil. For example, I have 10.25. If I apply any value or if I perform ceil operation on this, so for example, let's take math dot ceil 10.25 and I will store it in a variable called b. If I print b, so what will be my value? My value will be 10. My value will be 10. So what will happen? It will round down. It will round down my value. So that is possible with the help of ceil. That is possible with the help of ceil. In the same way, if I want to calculate the square root of any number, I will just pass it as a parameter to this function. So this function will return the answer for me. So like that, it is reducing my burden of writing a code separately to calculate the square root, to calculate the ceil value, to calculate the floor value, to calculate the sine value, to calculate the log value. Like this, I have n number of mathematical functions which is already predefined and it is already stored in the math library. So what is that you need to do? So you should import before using these functions in your program. That is what you need to remember at this point of time. Moving on to the next concept. So my dear students, we have the concept that is if statements. You all know we have 4 different types of if statements. Let us take a look one by one. The first if statement that we have is if condition, that is if simple if statement. Let us understand this simple if statement, how exactly it is working. Before that, how exactly it is working? So my dear students, we have the if statement. I will have the condition. If the condition is true, whatever I have inside the block, that is if block, that statement will be executed. Suppose if the condition is not true, so it will skip that particular if block and it will start executing the remaining statement. That is how the simple if statement is working. Yes or no? Let's take a look. My dear students, let's get into the syntax first. Sir, I have to start with the keyword called if. I have to start with the keyword called if. So whatever the conditions that you have, so you have to give the conditions here. So that is what I will call it as the conditional expressions. So once you're done with the condition, my dear students, remember you have to give colon here. You have to give the colon here. If you give the colon here, automatically when you press enter, so you will have the tab space. You will have the tab space. Sir, why I will get the tab space? So my dear students, whatever it is coming inside this tab space, so that will be treated as a block of this particular if statement. That will be treated as a block of that particular if statement. You need to remember that. So if this condition is true, whatever the statements that I have inside this if block, that statements will be executed. Suppose if this condition is not true, then this statements, whatever I have inside the block, that will be skipped and it will start executing the normal statement which is outside the block. That is what you need to remember with respect to the simple if. Sir, you did not explain. Suppose if the condition is false, what is that system it should do? What is that I have to do? Sir, I have a problem now. So how do I solve this? So to solve this problem, I have the next type of if statement. So in that, I will be discussing, suppose if the condition is false, what is that it has to do? So that is what I am going to explain. Before that, let us understand this flowchart. My dear students, here you are giving your condition. Yeah, you are giving your condition. Suppose if the condition is true, so it will go inside the if block, it will execute all the statements. Suppose if it is false, it will skip this particular block and then it will start executing the other statements which is outside the block. That is what you need to remember with respect to the if statement. Moving on to the next type of if statement, that is if else. Let us understand, if I have the same thing, if statement I have given my condition. So if the condition is true, whatever I have inside this block, that will be executed. Suppose if the condition is false, so then it will execute this else block. So guys, you need to treat this as true block. You need to treat this as true block. You need to treat this as false block. So that is what you need to remember. If the condition is true, then these statements will be executed. If the condition is false, these statements will be executed. Even for this else also you should end with the colon. My dear students, remember this else, this if, all these things will be treated as keywords which we have discussed in the first session. Remember that. So that is how the if else statement is working. I will repeat. So if else, if I have the condition like which is true, then if statements will be executed. If the condition is not true, then else statements will be executed. That is what you need to remember at this point of time. So moving on to the next type of if. Moving on to the next one, I have if else if statement. So what is this? You need to understand one thing. In the first type of if statement, I was able to give only one condition. If that condition is true, the statements used to execute. That's it. I was not doing anything else. You need to understand the second thing. In the second if statement, I had one condition. That is, one if statement I had, one condition I was able to give and check. Suppose if the condition is true, it will execute the if block. If the condition is false, then it is used to execute the else block. Now, I have more than one condition. For example, I need to check if day is equal to Monday, then wear white dress. If the day is equal to Tuesday, then wear green dress. So I have 7 days. I have how many days? 7 days. I have 7 conditions. Then how do I do it? To solve this problem, I have the next type of if statement, that is if else if statement. So my dear students, here in this if statement type, I can give more than one condition. I can check more than one condition. So that is the speciality of this statement. My dear students, everybody have a quick look. I have the syntax, that is, I have to start my statement with the if keyword. I have to start my statement with the if keyword. So I will give my first condition in the if statement. I'll give the first condition with the if statement. Suppose if this condition is not true, if this condition is not true, what is that I will do? I will go to the next condition. I'll go to the next condition, but I will not just write if. Instead, I will just write else if. I'll just write else if. In short, I will call it as a LF. My dear students, in short, I will call it as a LF. Then followed by, I will give my condition. Followed by, I'll give my condition. So, my dear students, suppose here also my conditions fails. What it will do? It will check for the next else if. I can also have one more LF. I can just write LF and then I can give my condition here, and then I can have a separate block for this LF. Like that, I can have n number of LF blocks. So once all the conditions are checked, still it is false, then what will happen? Finally, it will execute the else block. You have to treat all these things as a true block and this as the false block. In this one, how many false block you will have? You will have only one false block. All this will be treated as a true block, but based on the condition, it will execute the selected block. That is what you need to remember with this particular if statement. Moving on to the next one. Sir, what is that I have here? Nested if statement. What is that I have here? Nested if statement. Nested in the sense what? Inside. Nested in the sense what? Inside. So if I have the if condition inside the if condition, that I will call it as a nested if condition. I will repeat, if I have the condition inside the condition, that is if condition inside the if condition, then I will call it as a nested if statements. Let's have a quick look with the syntax of that. Sir, I will be writing the keyword called if, then I will give my condition here followed by colon. Then after that, so I have given one tab space. Inside this if, I have given one more condition. Inside this I have given one more condition. Then I have given the statements. So this statement will be executed only when both the conditions are satisfied. Only when both the conditions are satisfied. Suppose if these conditions are not true, then the else block will be executed. Then the else block will be executed. That is what you need to remember. So this is all about the 4 different types of if statements that we have, my dear students. My dear students, what is the next topic that we have? Looping statements. What is looping statements? If you are executing some set of statements until you satisfy some condition. I will repeat, if you are executing some set of statements repeatedly, this word is very, very important. If you are executing this set of statements repeatedly until you satisfy some conditions, so such statements I will call it as a looping statements. So to execute some set of statements again and again, we have some of the concepts. The first one is for loop and the second one is while loop. In this session I will be discussing. Let us understand the syntax of for loop. So my dear students, what is the syntax of for loop? So I have to write the keyword that is for. I have to write this keyword that is for. So what is that I have to write? After that you have to write the name of the variable. You have to write the name of the variable. So then after that you have to write the keyword that is in. You have to write the keyword that is in. Then after that you have to write the sequence. You have to write the sequence. So my dear students, I'll take an example and I'll try to explain this. Sir, I have for A in list 1. Okay, print A. So what is the meaning of this, sir? What is the meaning of this, sir? Sir, A is a variable which will access each and every element that I have inside this list and it will be printed one by one. So that is what I'm trying to do in this loop. So that is what you need to understand. My dear students, this for loop will help me to access the elements or the object or the data items individually one by one, sequentially. So with the help of this for loop, I am able to execute the set of statements repeatedly until I satisfy my condition. So that is what you need to remember. So moving on to the next one. We have while loop. So my dear students, what is the syntax of while loop? So guys, we have to start with the keyword called while and then you have to give the condition here. We have to give the condition here and the body of the loop will be written here. So what is the difference between the for loop and what is the difference between the while loop? That is what we need to understand. Sir, in which situation that I have to use for loop and in which situation I have to use while loop? Sir, that is what we need to understand, all of us right now. When you know how many number of times that you are going to execute a group of statements, you need to use the for loop. But when you don't know how many number of times that you will be executing the set of statements, then you should go for the while loop. So until you satisfy some of the condition, the set of statements whatever you have given inside the while loop will be executing again and again. That is what you need to remember with respect to the for loop and while loop. I will repeat, for loop you will be using when you know how many number of iterations that you are going to execute. So when you are not having any idea with respect to the number of iterations, then you will be using the while loop. So my dear students, I will discuss the syntax of while loop once again. You will be writing the while keyword and then followed by you will be writing the condition. Then after that you will have your loop body. Loop body in the sense all the set of statements which will be executed once you satisfy the condition whatever you have given. Moving on to the next one. In this jump statements, I will be discussing two important topics. The first one is break. The second one is continue. You need to remember this. You need to understand this very clearly. So what happens with the break and what happens with the continue? Let's start with the break. My dear students, imagine I have this code. Imagine I have this code. We have already discussed about while loop. So please observe, I have given the break statement here. I have given the break statement here. Where is the break statement? Break statement is inside the while loop. Is inside the while loop. My dear students, if it encounters the break statement, it will terminate. It will terminate what? It will terminate the loop. It will come out of this loop and it will start executing the statements which is outside the loop, My dear students, you need to remember, suppose if it encounters the break statement, it will come out of the loop and it will start executing the statements which is outside the loop. That is what you need to remember with respect to the break. Moving on to the next one, I have continue. So what is that I have continue? Suppose if I encounter the keyword that is continue, so it will come out of the iteration. It will come out of the iteration or it will skip that particular iteration. So in this example, I am encountering the continue in this particular point. So it will skip the statement 2 and 3. It will skip executing the statement 2 and 3. Sir, we did not understood this break and continue. Can you just give us some example to understand? Yes, my dear students. Imagine I have break. So I am comparing the break with the book. I am comparing the continue with the sheets. Suppose if I am encountering the break, I will skip that book. I will skip that book. That book is a loop. So inside that book, I have multiple pages. That I will call it as the iterations. So if I encounter the continue, I will skip that pages. I will not skip that loop. I will skip the pages. You hope you understood this example. If I say break, that break will skip the loop. If I say continue, the continue will skip the iteration. That is what you need to remember with respect to the break and continue. Moving on to the next one. I have more on loops in the sense what? I can also have the loop. I can also have the else statement for the for loop. Okay, my dear student, how exactly the else part is working for the for loop? Suppose if I complete the execution of for loop, at the end, it will execute the else statement. But you need to remember one thing. Suppose if I encounter the jump statements inside this, if I encounter the jump statements inside this block, then this block will not be executed. If the for loop completes its execution normally, then at the end, this statement, the else part will be executed. Suppose if it skips any of the iteration, then this else part will not be executed. This is how the for else is working for all of us. So moving on to the next one. So my dear students, all of you know about the word called nested. Nested in the sense what? Which is inside again. So my dear students, I have the loop inside the loop. I have given the loop inside the loop. You need to understand. So I have given the for loop. So inside this for loop, I have given one more for loop. This is what you need to understand. If I have given the loop inside the loop, that particular concept, I will call it as a nested loop. That is what you need to remember at this point of time, my dear students. So hope I have given enough concepts in today's session. So a quick revision of expression, if statements, looping statements, and also jump statements. Lastly, we have more on loops. So my dear students, hope you have enjoyed, hope you have learned, hope I have not wasted your time. Thank you very much.